Football Show with Jaguars head coach Randy Borchers. I'm your host, Tom Gamble, and we are headed into week 2 of the regular season. And you heard that name, Torrey Cordell Armstrong. That could come back into play later when we do our trivia. Just giving you something to think about. But we got to get right into it. Welcome to Barleycorns, obviously the site every Monday throughout the fall for our Cooper Football Show, inclusive, I'd be remiss, inclusive, we do not take off the holiday weekend. We will be here next Monday, heading into the week of the big game against Ryle. We'll save that for next week. Maybe I might sneak in a question or two on that this week, but probably not. Let's get started from week 1. The Jaguars at home before a huge contingent of fans on Cooper High School's campus, and Bardstown came to town. Second meeting between the two schools, and Cooper led 36-0 running clock, and Bardstown got on the board on the last play of the game to make the final score 36-6. So the Jaguars start off 2024 with a convincing victory. And Randy, let's talk a little bit about that. I'll get to some of the superlatives of your players, but just week 1 after a couple scrimmages and evaluating how the team looked, offense, defense, special teams. We'll get to some specifics, but overall, what were your thoughts on game number 1 and victory number 1?
We obviously did some really good things. We obviously have a lot of things we still have to work on. Offensively, it took us a while to get clicking. Once we got clicking, we really started to move the ball well. I think we scored 3 times within about 6 minutes. So, we got the firepower to be really good offensively. We just have to settle down and kind of take what they give you. I think we were pressing a little too much with some of the stuff we were trying to do, and once we settled down and just kind of let the game come to us, we started to move the ball pretty well. Defensively, we just continue to get better. We're starting to read a little bit better with our linebackers. We're still pretty young with the D-line and our linebackers, and they're getting better every week. So if we continue to improve there, hopefully by the time we get to districts, we're playing pretty good defensively as well.
Well, one thing I noticed is on offense, and this has been a strength, you really spread the ball around. Campbell Harris, 17 of 25, 225 yards, 4 touchdowns, the almost important stat, 0 interceptions. Threw 3 TDs in the first half to 3 different players. Malachi Ewell, Isaiah Johnson, Ryker, Campbell, and that's the one thing. I mean, when you look at the offense, and then you have Keagan Maher, 12 carries, $168, couple TDs. When you look at that, the diversity on offense, and there were other guys in the passing game as well. I mean, Isaiah Johnson, 5 catches, 73 yards, and you just look around, and Jaden Combs caught 3 balls, Austin Alexander a couple, and when you look, that's got to be the one thing. If I'm the opposing defense and the opposing defensive coordinator, that's got to be the most troubling aspect is, A, you can run it, you can throw it, and when you do all of that, you involve so many different guys. And I know is it kind of when you're thinking about on defense, when you face an opponent like that, makes it very difficult to stop.
Yeah, and when you looked at us last year, predominantly in the passing game, the majority of our passing came from 2 guys, Austin and Isaiah. And, you look at this year, also, Friday night, Austin had 2 catches, I think, for 28 yards. And if we're, as a defense coordinator, you can look at it and say, okay, if I can shut down those 2, we have a chance, in the years past. And it was very difficult to shut those 2 down. But now when you got Ryker and you got Jaden Combs coming up big and Malachi, getting more involved in our offense, you can't just focus on those 2 guys, which teams were able to do last year. Now you got 4 or 5 guys you have to find on the field. And if you're going to try to take that away, you got Keagan in the backfield, which, we've been releasing him out of the backfield a little bit more, getting him involved in our passing game. But, he had 12 carries for 168 yards. So if we can keep that up as well with our passing game, we're going to be pretty solid offensively.
Well, let me ask you, this might seem like a silly question. Obviously, with a talent like Austin Alexander, you're not going to use him as a decoy, but when teams are keying on Austin Alexander, you've got, as you just alluded to, all these other guys. That really might make it, there are going to be some times when a defense is going to focus so much on Alexander, maybe Johnson. And the good news for you, at least in theory this year, is, as you mentioned, you've got all those other guys. As a defense, you really can't afford to do that, can you?
You can, and I think the biggest thing with Austin, which I think is his biggest growth, from last year, is we're using him a lot more as a blocker. We're moving him around. We're able to use him a little bit more interior, with the interior line. pulling him a little bit more. So he's such a big body and such a physical kid. If we can move him around and still get the production outside that we were getting with him last year with other kids, that it's going to make it very difficult to stop us.
Tell you something funny. We had our Skyline Chili Crosstown Showdown opener last week, Moeller at Princeton, and I got there before the game started, and some guys for Channel 9, including Marshall Kramsky, who came here from Texas, and we were talking, he and Mike Dyer, and he said, remember when I told you, Mike, when I went out to Cooper, and this was a couple years ago, and I saw Austin Alexander, I said, okay, that guy's a big-time player. And he saw guys in Texas just with his body and the way that he carries himself. So, I mean, that's having that guy on both sides of the football, too. And he had a game defensively. You know, a lot of guys getting into it defensively, getting into the action, and that's what you want, right? I mean, and you had Alex Vogelpohl. No doubt when you talk up here, you then do something like you record a safety, right? And you get that. Isaac Brown had a good game, and you had a lot of guys on defense. Dax Bolin, I mean, you had a lot of guys on defense making plays. And talk about your defense, because I think this has to be a season where you've got a potent offense. It's about defense, losing a guy like Jack Lonecker, having guys step up. How important is it to have that week one? Really, you shut them out till the last play of the game, time expires. How important was that? More on defense than maybe on offense.
Yeah, we've always tried to build our team around defense, and we've always tried to be physical. And me being a former defensive guy, I've always tried to win defensively, and we've always tried to play field position and win defensively. And we've always preached, not to give up the big play. I think we gave up, a little less than 3 yards a carry on Friday night. So that's really positive on us. The one negative is I think they were 67% completion or on fourth down. So, we got to do better and get off the field on fourth down. But overall, we did a really good job. And, Ryker Campbell, we talked about him offensively, but he had one heck of a game for us defensively, at safety filling, and he was in on almost every play. So if we can get our safeties to fill downhill like that, and we can get our linebackers to read, and our defensive ends, Austin and Mikey Mulvihill did a tremendous job keeping our linebackers free. We're just going to hopefully continue to get better. We just got to stay healthy and improve every week.
Week one is in the books. Cooper victorious over Bardstown 36-6. This is the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars coach Randy Borchers. So we look ahead to week two, and you travel. You go down to Lexington to take on Henry Clay. Kickoff is 7:30, and this is a team that you beat 42-2 last year, running clock before halftime. They're mired, and this was a program that a few years back was really solid, and they've lost 16 straight games. They haven't had a winning season since 2015. And, this is one of those, how do you approach this week? Kids, wow, there's so many vehicles of information, communication today. And naturally, as you look to week three and you see, the close rival game against Ryle, how do you go into this? And we talked, and you brought up the improvements that you want to see from that first scrimmage to second scrimmage, where you also said from week one, game one, to now game two. How are you approaching this week, and how do you keep the kids from what you would think being overconfident?
Yeah, and it's funny because we had a big conversation on Saturday about, our kids kind of feeling pressure. Our kids really haven't been here before, and kind of, they've been hearing all off season how good they were. The expectations are so high for this group of guys. So, we really sat down and talked on Saturday about just taking one game at a time, taking one play at a time, and that's really our focus this week. We just want to worry about Henry Clay. We don't want to worry about anyone else. We don't want to talk about anything in the future. We just want to focus on Henry Clay, continue to get better. Watching film on Saturday, I think our kids understand, we have a long way to go. There's a lot of things we got to improve on. So those are our focus going into this week. This week's going to be a tough week because of the weather. We had a JV game tonight, but even without that, with this weather, and then tomorrow, we're having to change up our practice schedule. So we're most probably not going to be on the field as much as we typically are on a week to prepare. So we got to really be focused in and just, really focus in on the time that we get, because it's not going to be a whole lot of time on the field. So, we're just going to get locked in, try to improve what we can improve on, and just worry about Henry Clay and take one play at a time.
Yeah, you mentioned tonight, we appreciate everybody for coming out to Florence Barleycorns, because there is a JV game, Connor at Cooper. It was originally scheduled to start earlier, but it got moved back to a 7 o'clock kickoff, and that's going to happen probably all week. I saw they're already moving back some games on Friday night with the anticipated continued heat through the week. And you're right. All of a sudden, you get a little crisp fall, and then now we're back to, the way it should be, let's be honest, in late August. Let me ask you these first two games, though. I know it's one of the things in Kentucky is they now use what is called the RPI. So this was not the case a few years back. It was preset, which you would go to and what district, and you play in the postseason. Ohio has used the Harbin computer rating system for years. The RPI, to me, has a lot of flaws in it, inclusive of when you play a team from out of state. I'm going to say you're penalized, but that's kind of a neutral. A lot of it doesn't make any sense, but yet you have to follow that because ultimately where you finish in the RPI could determine how many home and or away games you have in the postseason. You naturally want to be at home. And certainly when you are playing teams, and I'm just going to be brutally honest here, when you look at your schedule, there are a number of teams that you're going to play that may not win many games. That conceivably could hurt you. Do you just ignore that and figure at the end of the day, if we're going to win again and make it a run like we did last year, we're going to be good enough? Or do you you can't do anything about it now, right? What do you think of the RPI?
Well, it's challenging. We started scheduling for year 2025, 2026, over a year ago. And you have no way of knowing how teams are going to be in 2 years. So you're kind of just taking it, you're just kind of guessing. And Henry Clay, we played them back in 2016, and everyone's like, man, that team's really good. You shouldn't be playing them. And they've kind of taken a step off. Well, you're never going to know how those teams are going to be in 2 years. So you're kind of, just taking a gamble. You obviously know there's certain teams that are going to be good at year in and year out, but there's a lot of teams that, are very cyclical. So scheduling's very challenging with it, but at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control. And we tell our kids all the time, don't worry about things you can't control. So our biggest thing is we just got to go out, take care of business, beat the teams that we should beat, beat the teams on our schedule. And if we do that, then we feel like we'll be set up pretty good come playoff time.
Let's look back quickly at some scores from week one around northern Kentucky. And the county of Boone, the Boone County Schools, unbeaten on a week. Boone County got past Holmes 41-0. Connor with a lopsided win over Paul Dunbar. And, of course, Cooper wins. And Ryle, game tied 14-14 and pulls away, winds up winning 30-14 over Covenant Catholic. And in the district, Highlands wins 17-7 over Lexington Catholic. I think probably the score that surprised me the most was that Simon Kenton put up a 50 spot on Dixie Heights and won 50-35, and then Scott gave up 63 and lost 63-27 to Campbell County. But when you look at a couple big games around this week, the district, Highlands is at Covenant Catholic, so that's kind of a barometer game, right? So Ryle's at Connor. And also in Northern Kentucky, Beechwood went on the road, a tough opponent, Pulaski County, and pulled out a 1-point win there. So just kind of keeping track of the Northern Kentucky teams. And any surprises for you from week one, especially in the district?
No, I think if you look at it was probably the score of the Ryle and Cuffcast score. We knew going into this year, and I don't think it's a secret, that Ryle's going to be one of the best teams in the area this year. So it doesn't surprise me they won, but to win by 16 against a very good Cuffcat team, it shows a lot about how good Ryle really is. Like you said, it was a very close game, but they found a way to pull away at the end. So, that game's always a tough game for us. But again, we'll worry about that come next week. But, the other ones were kind of what you anticipated. I kind of felt like Highlands was going to get a win. Highlands is really, really good and very physical, very big football team. So, they're going to be the team that we're going to have to keep an eye on all year. And I think Dixie's going to continue to get better. They got some really good parts to it. They're a very physical football team. So there's a lot of good teams in our district. There's a lot of good teams in Northern Kentucky. And, again, we just have to worry about ourselves and worry about us getting better every week, and then we'll worry about the teams we play each week.
Talked to a couple people who were at the Highlands game and said that their defense might be one of the best ever. And, again, to your point always about Highlands, their lines, both are pretty solid. So there you have it. All right, so now we're going to welcome up a special guest, somebody who you know well. You get to listen to him talk. He's your brother, Mike. We're going to find out about his exhilarating coaching career, where I know he is one of the winningest coaches in Northern Kentucky history. But this guy, seriously, I'm going to find out your relationship, his thoughts about you as a coach, and what I know you talked last week. Somebody asked a question from the audience about what Mike has meant to you. And now he can help lay the framework of education in the state of Kentucky. I've got a few questions for him about that. But we'll talk about what he did at Ludlow when we talk to Randy's brother, Mike. Next, we're going to talk to 4 players later, too. How about that, huh? Keagan Maher, Christian Brown, Ryker, Campbell, and Austin Perriman. So we'll do that. We'll bring you back up. But right now we'll take a quick time out, and we'll welcome up Mike Borchers, Randy's brother, and talk to him about his career, both not just coaching, but in education, where he did some great things. This is the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars head coach Randy Borchers. I'm your host, Tom Gamble, coming to you from the Florence Barleycorns. Make plans every Monday to join us, including next Monday, which is Labor Day. And a reminder for Cooper football home games, the late-night Friday football menu, staying open past 11, serving food, a limited menu. But you can join again. That'll be a week from this Friday. Rio Cooper that night. They better be prepared, because that'll be a busy one here at the Barleycorns. So we'll be back with more momentarily. Welcome back to the Florence Barleycorns. It is the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars coach Randy Borchers and now his brother, Mike. Mike, welcome. How you doing? I know you've been here before, but we're glad to have you as our special guest tonight.
Thank you, Tom. I got a quick question for you from last week's show.
Sure.
Did you get your gift bag for the?
I did. Well, I'm going to talk about that. Trust me, I'll be discussing that.
I was worried.
Not only did I get it, I got it personalized to me, and I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of stuff in there, so that may go down tonight.
Well, we know how you and Skinny are, so I want to make sure you were taken care of.
Nothing I love more than a good treat bag.
All right.
All right, let's talk. Let's do it quickly about your football coaching career, right?
Well, that's pretty quick, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah. Now refresh my memory. You were the head coach at Ludlow, right?
Correct. I was the assistant coach, and Tom Staley was the head coach, and we had a really good run. And then we were in a small school. We had like 24 seniors one year, so all the young kids, none of them played. So Tom retired, and Glenn Wise, who I know you know as well,
I do.
He called me in. He said, "Mike, you're going to be the head coach, and you got 6 players, and you got to make sure you put a team on the field every day." So we went 2 years. We struggled. Randy was working with me, but after that, we kind of turned the corner, and Steve Hensley took over, and things have been history since then. And we've been real competitive since then. So I can say I'm the only Ludlow coach with a perfect record. It was 0-19, and Randy makes sure I remember that all the time.
I know he did, right. You know, it is funny. Coaches who retire seem to time it very well.
Yes,
you ever notice that? It's interesting how
they do.
Coaches who've had really successful runs, all of a sudden they go, it might be time for me to step aside, and they make up
being in high school sports as much as you have, if you ever go a year without fielding a team, it's almost the doomsday to the program.
Oh, you're done.
The kids that fought through that with us, they were great kids. They played hard. Obviously, they didn't get the wins, but I see kids now that they're men now, and they remember these little intricate things about a game. It's not that they lost. Say, hey, coach, you remember this or that? So it's always nice to have those relationships down the road.
What's kind of funny and seemingly cheesy that we talk about, football teaches the game of life, but it truly does, and it is interesting how years later what they remember, and now they remember great plays and certainly landmark victories, but they remember that practice stuff and the different scenarios. But you ascended to become the superintendent of the Ludlow Independent Schools, and I tell you what, for anybody who drives along Route 8, and they're going to see the continued development right now, but you certainly are leaving a legacy there from the baseball field and what it's done, the softball field, but everybody talks about the red turf, right? How do you not? And that was something, and talk about that, because I love it. And I know there's, 3 of them in the country, I think. Is that accurate?
Yes, there was 2, and then 1 went on after us. And I think Paris is trying to copy us down in Paris with the orange field. But several years ago, we were able to get some funding from the state. We were going to put a turf field in, so I knew Eastern Washington had a red field, so I called out there and talked to their AD, asked. The big fear was, is this going to fade and be pink someday? And if you know anything about how they do the field, the whole fiber is all red solid through. So I went to the board and we convinced them, and it was something, I think, Tom, something that being around high school athletics for all these years, there's very few of those community schools left.
Oh,
where,
you're right.
And that in Ludlow, our football program is kind of is the heartbeat of our community. Pee-wee system, our middle school system, our girls soccer, our track. Everybody centers around there for most of the sports, and you saw what it did to the baseball when we put the turf in out there. So that was a big, big feather in the cap for our community, and now we're following up with $40 million in renovation of our school district. So in 2 years, the entire school district will be totally remodeled. But I think everyone remembers the red turf. We might have one heck of a science lab down the road, but they're going to remember the red turf.
Well, it was interesting, too, for a lot of people who thought red turf, but then I think everybody I know I talked to, when they saw it, they're like, that's pretty cool, and it certainly is distinctive. Now, you mentioned Kentucky and education. You were appointed by Governor Andy Beshear to the Kentucky Department of Education, to the board,
yes,
right? The state education board. So, 4-year term, correct? And,
yep.
and what, in essence, what are your challenges? What are you tasked to do in that position?
Well, I think, first of all, it runs kind of like a school board. So I'm a board member that oversees the state board and policy, and we work with the commissioner, who's like the superintendent. And I think, you're going to see a lot of changes. There's a big amendment, too, coming up this fall about funding. But the biggest thing is I think we've lost our way in understanding how important the public school system plays in our lives. I mean, we're looking into it in football, but 90% of the kids in the state of Kentucky are in a public school every day. And it's our job to make sure that we're putting the best school, the best curriculum, and the best programs in place so they can be successful down the road. And, when I talk to people who are detractors, they'll say, well, schools don't do this. I'm like, 15 years ago, did you have all your kids taking dual credit? Did you have kids going to all these other outside programs? We've gone a long way, but we kind of always look back to a simple test. And I think we have to look way beyond that. Same thing in a football game. Are you going to count your game over, one pass or one possession? It's a whole plethora of things, and I think we have to keep an eye on that.
Well, you'll be getting my list of.
I know I will.
It'll be coming very shortly.
And you have my cell number, so that'll even be worse.
So maybe I'll just text it.
Okay, that'll work.
Okay
that'll work.
But let me ask you about Randy. And did you envision? Could you tell that Randy was going to be a coach? I mean, was there? And if there was a defining moment, what would that have been? Where you said he's meant to coach?
Well, a couple things. Growing up, I got to coach him in middle school, and then I did my student teaching where he went to high school, and I got to coach his junior year there. And he would always come back home because I had to break down film, and he'd watch film with me. But I think the biggest time he was working with us at Ludlow, and Bellevue had a really good team. I remember it was back in the early 2000s.
Probably Charlie Coleman still coaching?
Charlie was there, and Randy was breaking film down, and he saw a lineman on their team, and it was the way he put his hand on his weight. We developed our entire defensive scheme over that, and we came up a little short. But no, we got beat by 40 the first game. When we were in the playoffs, I think we lost by 7. But right then is when I knew that he had an eye for things that was better and much more attention to detail than anybody had ever worked with in 20 years.
And how does it make you? A final question for you. How does it make you feel when you watch him now and you've seen his development and obviously he's been the only football coach in Cooper's history.
Yeah.
And that's tough. I mean, anytime you new school, obviously, and it's grown and matured both in football and as a school. But how cool has it been to watch him grow with Cooper and seeing the run last year and what they have the potential to do this year?
It's been awesome. I mean, ever since he took over, whether I was a principal into the central office watching my own son play, being a superintendent, we would text every Friday night. And a couple things I don't think people understand about Randy is he always asks what he can do better. When there's a tough loss, it's what could I have done better? What could I have done? He's never blaming the kids. Now, I'm sure when he gets into films, there's some hard talks with the kids, but he's always internalized and always making sure he doesn't get outworked, always making sure he's prepared. But I think the biggest thing, and I told him this last year at the Highlands game, towards the end of that game, and I think you were there, all heck was breaking loose. There was blocked field goals, fumbles. Right at the end, there was a game switch where the momentum changed. Everybody on the sideline, and 5 years ago, Randy would have been one of those coaches too, jumping up and down and being all upset. He was calm. He looked at his kids and said, we got this, we're going to do this, and 2 plays later they intercepted the ball and they went on to the state championship. So that just shows the growth he's had as a coach, and I think he's in a position now where he'll make sure he puts his kids into great positions. I think he's very excited. It's awesome to have some of the athletes he has, but I don't think that matters as much as he'll have them prepared, he'll have them motivated. And, we've talked a lot about what he mentioned earlier. You go from being the hunter to the hunted. That's a whole different mindset. So he's been working hard to try to make sure he gets the right tone for the season.
Well, Mike, I certainly appreciate you spending some time, and congratulations. I know you're retired now, right? I mean, but it is funny, but you're not somebody who can just sit around and do
No, I have a few things in the works. I'll be on the Kentucky board. Obviously, I'd love to be helping out with the program, but by law, I'm not allowed to do anything until October. So, I'll be around in education for sure.
Appreciate it. Mike Borchers.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mike, thanks for joining us tonight. And you mentioned those talented players. We're going to talk to 4 of them, 2 at a time. We'll first go on the offensive side of the ball. We'll chat with Keagan Maher, the running back, and Christian Brown, who blocks for him. So we'll bring up those 2 guys. And this is the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars coach Randy Borchers from Florence Barleycorns. More to come momentarily. Welcome back to the Florence Barleycorns. It's the Cooper Football Show. The 1-0 Jaguars with a 36-6 win over Bardstown. Up next, travel to Lexington Friday night to take on Henry Clay. 7:30 is the kickoff as Cooper looks to go 2-0 and head into Week 3 against rival Ryle. Kickoff is at Cooper, and that should be a crazy, crazy night. It's my pleasure to welcome up a couple guys from the offense, Keagan Maher and Christian Brown. 1 runs, 1 blocks. Can you tell which is which? Maybe. I don't know. Keagan, I'll start with you. And before we get to some of your accolades and numbers in this team, I was reading some notes about you, and Walter Payton is your guy, right?
I like him a lot. Like, I've always watched him. My dad kind of introduced him to me, and I tried to model my game after him a little bit. And now, like, Christian McCaffrey, like, that's my guy, too.
It's funny because most guys, young guys like you're a junior, don't, Walter Payton, who? Today, because the NFL is so popular, and most everybody today likes the current players. But, boy, Sweetness was his nickname, and I understand the one thing he really never did was he never just stepped out of bounds. He always, and that's kind of the way you run, correct?
Yeah, I kind of made that a point when I was younger. I was like, why run out of bounds when you can, like, have a chance for more yards, So
Christian on the line, you look at this offense, and obviously there's so much. You obviously can't spend your time when you're supposed to be blocking, watching, right? But, how incredible, and how do you think this offense can just continue? I see the statistics every week. Does it amaze you even the versatility that you guys have on offense?
It's an honor just to watch everyone play, have Cam throw and Keagan run. Have to take time to look at it during film. It's very nice.
So for you, and it's a little different when you're kind of a lineman. You played on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. Are there guys that you emulate as a player? Do you have favorite players that you say, I want to be like that guy?
No, not really. Just kind of play my own
Nobody?
game. No.
You've never said, man, that dude can block or that guy can tackle?
No, not really.
No.
Right.
Hey, you never know what you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Just gonna play my own game.
So talk about, you guys last year made it all the way to the state final and probably felt like the loss to Bowling Green. You had opportunities in that game. Oh, yeah. What's been your mindset and the mindset of this team coming into a new year?
Just next game, keep playing forward. Don't worry about next one after that. Just next game, next play.
So you're going to tell me sitting here that you're not thinking about Ryle tonight?
Well, okay, just a little bit, but
okay.
next game, like Henry Clay.
I got you. Okay, yeah. I understand. So what about you? It's hard. Come on now, it's hard. I'm
kind of the same way as him. It's just like you can't look into the future when you got Henry Clay to worry about. But like they're obviously in the back of my mind for sure. But you got to worry about this week.
For you, last year, 1,200 plus rushing yards, 300 plus receiving yards, 23 total touchdowns, 18 on the ground, 5 receiving. You are somebody that Campbell knows he can hand the ball to, but he also can throw to you out of the backfield. from last year to this year, what did you want to focus on from your perspective? What did you feel like you needed to get better at?
Definitely in the weight room. Like just adding some weight. I added like 15, 20 pounds this season, and just working on getting stronger and definitely pass protection, because I know at the varsity level, like those guys are big and I'm not very big, so it helps.
That is, you're not big. You're correct, and you said it. I mean, are there certain ways that it gives you a little bit of an advantage? Can you sometimes get lost in the pile? I mean, there are running backs who have been that way, certainly at the highest level. Do you kind of feel like that can be you to a degree?
Yeah, for sure. Like, you can see it on film sometimes. I'll even lose myself sometimes in film. Like, be like where I'm at, and then I'll just shoot out, and I feel like I don't know how defenses see that. Like, I can't imagine it.
So, Christian, talk about you personally from last year to this year. What did you focus on? What were you thinking about in terms of getting better?
Mainly my confidence. Last year, as being like a sophomore, I had no confidence. But this year, I feel way more confident in myself and my other linemen, too.
When you mention confidence, what has given you more confidence?
I trust in myself way more than I do this year than I did last year. And also, I know the guys next to me will block for me, because last year I played the seniors. I didn't really know them this well. But I'm playing mainly juniors and the sophomore. So I trust them way more this year than I did last year.
So I'm going to ask both of you guys the same question as we sit here and we get ready for week 2. Naturally, you want another extended run. You want to win the district. You want to be the top team in Northern Kentucky. Why not, right? And then go on. And ultimately, the goal for every football player is to win a state championship. For you guys, week in, week out, to get better and to have an opportunity, what's it going to take? What will be the difference maker if this team is to do the ultimate, and that's win it all?
Definitely focusing on the little things, like just for receivers, blocking on the backside, running your routes hard, even if the play's not designed for you. For me, like pass protection, pulling my fakes hard, and I just feel like the little things for sure.
From your perspective, what do you think can make a difference in this year's team? I mean, last year you were 12-3, made the state final, which is obviously quite an accomplishment in itself. But to go the next step, what will be the difference maker?
I feel like our leaders need to do some more with our leadership. They're good, but we need a little more encouragement sometimes, to make sure we do the right things. And I feel like we need to know what we're doing most of the time. I feel like on O-line at least, sometimes we don't know what we're doing, we step the wrong way,
All right, let me ask you about your first speaker on Thursday night. The team meal last week was our very own Billy Prickett. How did he do? Do you remember the theme? What was the theme?
It was brotherhood.
All right.
Yeah. He talked about when he played for Cooper, they were all really close, and that they all had a really good relationship on the football field, but also off the football field, and that was just really important. So.
Did he do well, in your opinion?
He talked about food, so that was always my favorite. I like that.
All right, what did he say about food?
They knew a lot about the discounts as teams, so we got to step up that one.
That's great. Well, okay, it's funny you segue into that. I'm going to ask you guys. So the signs that have the slogans and the treat bags, I'd be remiss. They're very nice. They may be my own treat bag. What do you think of the treat bags? This is kind of a personal thing of mine that I'm not going to lie. Kind of irritates me, but I've been told they work. So let's see. What do you think?
I think
it's okay. Just be honest. This is an honest platform here.
I think it's a cool thing because I don't think there's many other teams that do it, and it gives me snacks. Like when I'm hungry, just something to snack on.
All right, well that's good. Now, do you pay attention to the slogan and the, whatever it says?
Yeah, I do.
I'm not convinced. How about you? I know you're going for the food, right?
Yeah, I go for the food immediately.
First, and then maybe you look at the slogan.
Yeah,
or
look
what?
in the front of the bag. I have all the ones from last year still saved. So those are my favorite. Those are memories I have.
Well, there's
saved.
nothing left in the bags.
No, but it's the front
right.
part right here, the slogan.
Okay. So you've saved those.
Oh yeah, they're all in my drawer. Yeah.
All right. So do you ever get them out and remember
I did,
this?
Yeah.
Or maybe do you ever say I ate too much this week and I couldn't do the slogan?
No, I can't eat too much. It's kind of hard.
All right. So give me what's your favorite food?
Chipotle burritos.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
One or more?
I get like double wrap burrito, like with the 2 tortillas, and then fill it up with double chicken, double steak. This is after like the gym workout.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
After the gym. Well,
Yeah,
I
I
sure
deserved
as
it.
hell
I
hope it's not
deserved it.
before. Right. Okay.
Yeah, I deserved it.
All right. See, that's what this program's all about, honesty. Well, you guys certainly off to a great start. Good luck on Friday. You'll be back. You'll be back to we'll check in with you a little later. But Keagan, Maher, Christian Brown, 2 of the members of the offense for the Cooper Jaguars. Appreciate your time tonight. And we're going to welcome up 2 members of the defense, Ryker, Campbell, and Austin Perriman, 2 guys who are safeties and defend. So you guys score, they try to prevent. So we'll do that. Thanks for spending time with me, guys. All right, have a good night. You got it, man. Have you had the spicy rib appetizer yet? Here, yeah. You got to try that tonight, trust me. Do you like spicy food? Okay, well, then you got to get that spicy rib. It's for a limited time only, so do it tonight. All right, we'll talk offense or defense when we continue. See, I start talking about food, I start fumbling too. When we continue, it's the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars coach Randy Borchers right here at the Florence Barleycorn. Welcome back to the Florence Barleycorns. The Cooper Football Show rolls along. And week 2 coming up, trip to Lexington to take on Henry Clay, 7:30 kickoff. And pay attention because with the anticipated heat, as Coach Borchers and I discussed earlier, some teams have already kicked it back a little bit. We'll see what the forecast holds for Friday. Talked offense, now let's talk defense, which most coaches will tell you ultimately defense wins championship. You play on both sides of the ball, but we'll talk some defense. Ryker, Campbell, Austin Perriman, both defensive backfield guys. So welcome, and let's talk about that defense. Now, were you a little irritated shutting them out and knowing that you had one more play for the shutout? Because I know how defenses are. It's kind of like you want to pitch the shutout, right?
I mean, like, we'd like to get the shutout, but we know we shut them out whenever we got we shut them out as a team, but it's whatever. The score really don't mean anything. A win's a win. We got the win and got out of there.
So what about this defense this year? From last year to this year, what do you feel like you got, knowing that you have an offense that you do, which is going to put up points, but what is the key for the defense to play winning football?
I feel more comfortable. Like, I feel like we're all to the ball. More last year, it was more like Jack Lonerker or Lucas Hughes, and I feel like we're all just there now.
Well, it's funny. You bring that up, though. I mean, I think, talking to Coach Borchers about the preseason and the scrimmages, and I think, they talked about it seemed like in some instances they were waiting for Jack Lonerker to come and clean it up.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's just taking a little while to get to the mentality where now he's not here, so we got to do it ourselves?
I feel like better this year because I feel like I have my whole team like behind me. So, yeah.
Let me ask you about secondary, and you play both sides. You have football players that you kind of emulate, that you idolize. Who are your favorite guys that you try to play like?
Obviously, on offensive side, I kind of like Tyreek Hill. Like, obviously, I'm not like as fast as he is, but like he's kind of Yeah, he's kind of like a smaller guy, and obviously, I'm not the biggest on the field. So like just him being quick and getting around guys without being huge is like something that I could like.
What about on defense?
I like Jamal Adams, just like the way he comes. Well, he used to the way he comes down and fills and hits, and he can guard people wherever too.
How about you?
I kind of like Jalen Ramsey, even though he plays corner. But I just like how he like fills and like he's like a ball hawk, and I feel like that's where I like want to be.
Ryker, talk about offense. I mean, you had a nice game on Friday night, and everybody. I mean, when you look around, I think one of the things that makes this team so good offensively is there are so many guys who can get involved in the passing game. How does that, from your perspective, how much easier is it to get? It's never easy to get open, but how much easier is it to do that, knowing that defenses sometimes are keying on other guys as well?
Yeah, like whenever we have Isaiah and Austin on the outside, you obviously know that they're going to be the biggest threat to get the ball, and teams are going to force it around them. But having like Jaden and Malachi, like we only have 4 wide receivers on the field at one time, and we have 5 guys that could be wide receivers. That's just a depth within itself. But definitely having Isaiah and Austin on the outside, taking away the defensive eyes, definitely helps us get open easier wherever we're going.
Austin, you guys had a great season last year, but when you came into this year, knowing that you want to win one more than you did a year ago, what did you take away from not just that comeback at Highlands and then the state championship game where you guys, let's be honest, made some mistakes and probably felt like you could have won that game? What did you take away from those two games coming into this year and feeling like could be the difference maker?
I feel like we need to start taking the games game by game and quit worrying about state champs right now. And yeah.
So you're listening to coaches because they're telling you one play at a time, game by game. What about from your perspective? You know this team has talent. What do you think is the difference maker ultimately? And I realize we're just heading into week 2, but you're naturally trying to get better each week. And Randy talked about the improvement from week 1 to week 2. What do you want to see this team improve on Friday from last week?
One thing Coach preaches to us every single week, every single practice is doing the little things. Doing the little things will make the big things come. Like whether it's just little penalties or we wear these little wristbands and he gets on us about them, but it's just doing the little things and listening to what he says because he's a coach. He knows what's best. And like he said, the big things will come if you do the little things.
All right, before I let you guys return to your seats, I got to ask you about the slogans and the treat bags. So naturally, I'm guessing, are all the treat bags for you guys each week empty like Christian, or do you not? Do some of you preserve them into the next week?
No, I usually eat them that night because it's perfectly timing. It's at night.
Do you wait for them on the night? Are you looking out the front door or the window to see if they're there yet?
No, sometimes they just show up randomly, and I just.
Do they knock when they're delivered?
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's treat time, right?
Yeah.
What about you?
I usually don't eat them right away. Throughout the week, I'll see a little bit.
So
if there's candy in there,
you space it out a little bit.
Yeah.
You ration your food.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the slogans? Save them, remember them, take them to heart. Don't everybody answer at once.
I like them because we have them every week. It's about a different team. And
okay.
I have them hanging up on my front door each week.
So you do?
Yeah.
Okay. So you mean just the one for that week?
Well, it'll go and be just in the order. Last year, we had every single one up from the whole. We had all 15.
So I guess I'm wrong with the treat bag thing. I guess it's a very popular item, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm old school, man. Back in my day, if somebody had brought a treat bag to me, they'd have chased you off the porch, right?
Yeah.
But it's modern times. All right, so I'll get with the times. You guys are great sports, and I'll tell you one thing I've learned real quick is there are some quality kids in this program, and you guys represent yourself very well, and it's easy to see why this football team has a real chance to do something special again this year. Austin, Ryker, thanks. And you'll be back. You'll be back. It's a long season, so trust me, you'll be back. But best of luck on Friday night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, our final quick segment here. It is the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars coach Randy Borchers. I'm Tom Gamble, your host every week. I'm going to surprise myself when I get home and say, man, that's heavy. What do I have in there? Maybe I should. Let's look.
Perfect color for you, Tom.
What is this?
Pink, prime.
Okay, all right.
Laffy Taffy.
All right.
It's not going to be good with your dentures.
It's going to pull my teeth out,
Yeah.
right?
Pretzels.
Oh, yeah. Okay, pretzels are good. I might have those here tonight at Barleycorns with a beverage. Right.
More Laffy Taffy.
So, see, I got overly excited because I didn't realize a lot of it was the drink.
Yeah.
What do we got?
Skittles.
Well, okay, Skittles.
Now, do you get the theme of this, Tom?
Not really.
It's all purple.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Bardstown, they were purple.
I got you. Okay.
So
basically, I got a leftover treat bag, right, from last week because the new ones aren't made yet.
No, that one was from last year. We found it in the back room.
I bet that's going to be good. Can't wait to dive into the pretzels. All right, let's talk Friday night. When you watch the film, you obviously watched it from last week. When you watch it for this coming week after the game, what do you hope to see most?
First thing is we got to cut down on penalties. We had 6 penalties, and there's going to be times you have penalties that you really can't help. It's just from playing hard. But, most of our penalties, I think 5 of the 6 penalties we had, 3 of them were false starts. One was unsportsmanlike. So, we got to clean that up. That's going to cost you in big games, so we definitely got to clean up the penalty aspect of it. We got to start a little faster. We came out last week, and it took us a while to get going. It was a good thing because our defense really played well early on until our offense started getting clicking. And, early on we were moving the ball, and then we would just make an unforced error. We would miss a block, or we would pick up a penalty. So we just got to clean some stuff up. We're getting there, but obviously we want to play clean, and we talk all the time, and Ryker kind of mentioned about doing the little things, and we got to take care of those little things. And if we can take care of the little things, we're going to put some points on the board, and we're going to win some football games.
A final question. I know Bardstown, an out-of-area team, but certainly last week the home opener, and there was a lot of excitement around Cooper football. And what did it feel like? Because normally, you get some folks coming from some of the closer Northern Kentucky schools, but the crowd was outstanding last week. What did it make you feel like when you look over there and saw the stands as full as they were for the Week 1 game?
Yeah, the one thing I can say about Cooper High School and the Cooper community is, man, we have a great following, not just in football but in all of our sports. And we take a lot of pride in that as coaches and administrators at Cooper to have people that support our kids so much and really cheer us on. The energy in that place was unbelievable. Usually when you play a team from out of town, there's not a whole lot of excitement. You get the parents, you get some of the players. Usually the first game of the year, you're going to have a good turnout, but nothing like we had Friday night. And to have that type of energy in that stadium on the first game against a team from outside the area, was very special. And we're just hoping the more we win, the more people we get out, and the more energy we can get in that stadium each week.
All right, well, don't forget, we're back despite next week being a holiday weekend. We're back on Monday, same time, 6:45, as we get ready. Cooper versus Ryle the following Friday night at Cooper, kickoff 7:30. So make plans to join us, and we appreciate Barleycorns, as always, Brooke and the fine staff here at the Florence Barleycorn. So that's where we'll be every Monday, all during the football season. Thanks to Randy, his brother Mike Borchers, and certainly the 4 players for joining us tonight. And best of luck to the Jaguars Friday night down in Lexington, taking on Henry Clay. This has been the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars coach Randy Borchers from the Florence Barleycorns.